This past week, I was super fortunate to be able to take a week off. I managed to save up enough time to attempt rest and relaxation. It was nice to be able to catch up on some horror movies and TV shows since it was Halloween week. And one of my favorites was Pikmin's Model from the Guillermo del Toro Cabinet of Curiosities TV show. It was such a cool episode. Seeing a bunch of fun old-timey dudes draw at an old-timey atelier style art school made me want to bust out my art horse and accidentally get smudges of Conte everywhere. I also really enjoyed how powerful and diabolical Pikmin's work literally caused the character Will Thurber to fall into a void of demonic eldritch insanity. I mean, I would say art goals, but I want everybody to be happy and healthy at the end of the day. I will also say Crispin Glover is 100% the perfect casting decision for that character. Man, he plays some really cool, really weird characters. It's so awesome. If you are a horror fan, I would be really surprised if you haven't at least added it to your Netflix watch list. And other than catching up on unseen spooky things, I was able to actually sort of chill, bake some muffins and cook a few simple dishes for dinners. Making food for the family can be pretty enjoyable, you know, the doom and gloom of an employer's time clock. And I did my best to not go overboard since I had other things to take care of, such as trick-or-treating and taking kiddo to her extracurricular activities outside of school and playing a few video games, namely Portal and Graveyard Keeper, for the first time, and learning more about making content, which surprisingly or not surprisingly is very similar to making art. I pretty much knew nothing about it before I started, but I learned best by doing. It still feels like it'll be a while before I make the really, really good stuff, just like when you're learning any other art medium, whether it's like watercolor or graphite or charcoal. It's like you're learning another language of expression. And it's really cool. But yes, you go through the growing pains of it. And right now, I'm in a very lucky position. I'm finally to the point now where I can finally make videos. And before this, I had several life circumstances and some limited resources keeping me from pushing record. I'll share some of those stories at another time. Since I did push record today, and not just today, but other days, I have found myself saying, man, I really wish I had started sooner. And it's the same with art. It's like once you kind of get into that creative jam and you're just going and you're like, man, I wish I had discovered this thing that like I really enjoy now sooner. And so now I'm discovering like, wow, making these videos, it can actually be pretty enjoyable. So it's all good things. I mean, except for the time. I do wish we had more time in a day. Oh man, wouldn't that be amazing? There's just like so much cool stuff to learn and experiment with. And I'm definitely looking forward to getting my clumsy attempts of video making out of the way and making the really, really cool things that I personally would enjoy watching. So it's all about that skill building. And the same can definitely be said about drawing. And when it comes to that, man, I feel like I still have like a few thousand more to do before I'm ready to say like, oh, hey, yeah, I'm super awesome at this. This is truly my superpower, you know? If you're creative and you're feeling ambivalent about posting things, I definitely recommend that you accept it as a creative challenge. Just try to make a few videos, see if you enjoy the process, and sure, it'll be super uncomfortable, but you may be surprised at what you can make. And then you get to have the pride of knowing that you made that thing. That in itself is such a cool feeling. Taking breaks, also important, which I did this week as a reminder. As a recovering workaholic, it is much easier said than done. Pushing through by any means possible can be helpful for the creative process or getting things taken care of for the family, but that innermost balancing act, man, it can really get out of whack really, really quickly if you just like keep omitting yourself, because you, the person, you are part of the equation. It's very easy for regular people, parents, grandparents, family members, to just like hunker down and forget about themselves, just making sure everybody else is taken care of. You're in that survival state and everything, and that can definitely take its toll over time. I highly recommend just doing your best, but just also trying to balance that scale. I also like trying to build systems and staying on a particular, somewhat steady schedule. Life happens. The kiddo will get sick sometimes from school, and that will derail any household, especially if like you have both parents working. If somebody gets sick, it can throw off the momentum of the entire household. So building those systems is definitely a good idea, but also just as good, if not more important, practicing that self-compassion, forgiving yourself for the shortcomings that you may have, that especially for things that are beyond your control. That's definitely something I've been working on, and I've had time to be a little bit more introspective this past week, and oh boy, can that be tricky. As a side note, with Graveyard Keeper, by the way, if you do play that game, something that I wish somebody told me, but I'm letting you know that you can get water directly from the buckets by placing them in your action bar when you pull them up from the well. And that took me literally hours to figure out. When you hover over the items in the crafting menu, it'll give you like an item description and where you can source that item from. And it was a little bit misleading, so I got confused, but c'est la vie. I do hope that you have a good rest of your week and take time to practice some of that positive persistence towards yourself. It sounds a little bit silly, but look in the mirror and say nicer things to yourself. You don't always have to say it out loud, but just try to shift that inner voice to value who you are. See the value in what you create, even if it's flawed and misshapen. You may only have 5 minutes of stillness to pick up a pen and scribble that painting idea you had for a high school original character on the back of a receipt before the baby wakes up. Make time for rest, and don't beat yourself up if you don't have those 5 minutes right now. Sometimes all you can do is listen to a song like Doing the Unstuck by The Cure to get you through a dreadful moment before taking care of yet another responsibility. Treating things like a side quest is also a good option, and I can definitely attest to that. It's trying to make it into like a little RPG of sorts. It can definitely help. And when you have a moment, let me know what your go-to song or podcast that jumpstarts your creativity or gets you to your next creative moment. Thank you so much for stopping by, and if you've enjoyed hanging out, please like this video and consider subscribing for future me's art videos. Take care.